Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another week of Unique Genius in 33. I am Jo Self here in Lima, Peru today, and I am excited to talk to you today with Jana Cardona, who is with us and part of the Strong Community Strengths Genius organization with us, one of our certified facilitators, and she's going to be sharing her talent of developer with us today. And I can't wait for you to hear it from her, because if anyone embodies developer, it is Jana. So Jana, do us a favor and give us a quick introduction, where you are, a little bit about what you do, and make sure you share your top 5 with us.
Okay, hi everyone. I am in Memphis, Tennessee, actually Arlington, which is outside of Memphis. And I run Business Network International, which stands for, BNI for short, but it's a business organization with small business owners, small to medium-sized business owners. And my top 5 are, number 1 is learner, number 2 is developer, 3 is responsibility, 4 is belief, and 5 is individualization. So lots of relationship and strategy building skills.
Which is perfect for what you do out there. I mean, you couldn't be better suited for what you do, right?
Seriously, yeah.
I love that. So as we talk about developer today, for those of you who are just learning what developer is, according to Gallup, those who are exceptionally talented in the developer theme recognize and cultivate the potential in others. They spot the signs of each small improvement and derive satisfaction from evidence of progress. So, Jana, I always share 4 points of celebration and 4 points of evaluation with our guest. And so today I would love to share first the 4 bullet points of what to celebrate about developer, and let me know if this resonates with you, okay?
Okay.
So celebrate developer because of your dedication to progress, your talent spotting skills, your patience, and your belief in the potential of others. How does that feel?
That rings true. That's me.
Absolutely. What I know of you, I would say that's very true.
Yep.
And then to evaluate these, again, these are questions that we ask ourselves when we might be not on the best side of our developer or a little bit raw. And so to make sure that we're keeping our developer in check, we could ask ourselves, are we making progress? Is this worthy of my time? Is the other person actually interested in developing themselves? Or am I pushing too hard? So how about those questions, Jana? What do you think?
I've asked those of myself a lot, particularly that, is this worth my time? But then I check it with the fact that I have really heavy relationship building skills. And so it's kind of like, oh man, I don't want to let down. What if they're, what if they're struggling? So I have a war with myself, if you will, between that.
Right.
But then the last one, am I pushing too hard? I do feel sometimes I feel like they feel like I'm pushing too hard. Maybe I see more than they are able to produce. So.
Right. And we were just talking about that a little bit before we got on here live, is, developer in a similar way to maximizer, right? There are people that see potential in others. That's one of the ways maximizer can show up. And I have that. But when we look at that from developer, what you just said about pushing too hard is that sometimes our belief is so strong in someone else, and we see the potential so clearly that while we are truly just trying to be great cheerleaders, it can come across as setting a high level of expectation for others, right?
That's right. Almost too high, and they don't think they can achieve it.
Right. And they don't think they can live up to that expectation. And so it can end up doing exactly the opposite of what we want and what we see. So learning how to temper that, that it's not an expectation. It's just a belief. It's something that we see as possible. Right.
And I like what you said about that. I do, because that puts a check in my head. I hadn't quite thought about like that. When they say, gee, I don't think I can live up to that. And I have someone in my life that I'm working with that sometimes they say that, like, I can't live up to that, or I'm afraid I'm going to disappoint you. And I never really pegged it till just now. And then it's like, okay, now I know what to say. It's like,
right.
You can live up. It's just, I just need to monitor that, because I don't realize sometimes how it's being received.
Right. And so that's why we have these checks and balances, right? So that we can sort of go, oh, wait, what's happening here? and try to figure that out. So that being said, we've looked at the evaluation. So what do you love about your developer?
I think I really love the fact that I believe in people. I believe in the possibility that anybody can change, that no matter what their background, no matter what their circumstance, no matter even what they've done, I don't care what they've done, they can always improve. And that served me well because people feel I'm supportive. But also, I just truly do believe that. It's not something I'm making up. It's just, I believe it. You know, there's always.
Well, you've got this paired with belief, right? So your belief runs deep in that, sense of your developer too, is that you really do see potential in others. I mean, I know that just different work that you've done, not just professionally, but other organizations you've been involved in and what you're passionate about. I would say that developer just comes through loud and clear.
Right. And what's interesting, I think because I do believe, I come across as caring to them. And some people will go, I tell you things I didn't tell anybody else, and I'm like, why? But I think it's that feeling that I'm not judging them. I just want to help them. And maybe that's how it comes across. I don't know.
Right. I would absolutely imagine that to be true. So if we were to flip the coin, what is it about your developer that drives you crazy or that you don't really like?
Caring more than they do. Sometimes you get, I've had it where I care so much for somebody's progress and maybe they're inching along and then they stop or they fall back and it crushes me. It really literally crushes me because I think, oh man, I thought they were this much ahead, and so I think that's where I tend to get dashed, down low and get disappointed sometimes that they're not continuing that progress like I thought they would maybe. And I think that's probably it more than anything else is that discouragement that I have for them.
Right. Sure. Yeah, because that wouldn't be feeding your energy and what you would need, right? So that could be one of the that gets triggered when you're like, oh, why can't you see this? Like, why can't you see
it kind of drains me and yet it doesn't make me give up. It'll make me stop for a while maybe or reevaluate. But then I'm like right back up and I'm like, I'm like back up from a knockout. Okay, I'm at it again.
You can knock her down, but you can't knock her out, right?
That's right.
Awesome. All right. So I always love to ask this because this really is one of my favorite questions is how do you remember seeing your developer show up? Like, do you have early memories of developer or where do you really remember seeing it develop for yourself?
When you sent that question, I had a hard time with that because my background, I was like so shy and so quiet and hardly talked to anybody. And I didn't even believe in myself, let alone other people. And so I tried to think about that. Where did I change? Where did I come to start seeing some of these talents that I have? And I think it was when I went to college and when people believed in me. They saw things in me, and about 5 seniors took me under their wing as a freshman. This quiet, mousy little person that had always thought I couldn't do anything well because that's kind of how I was brought up and compared. And it was always like, well, you're not quite up there, try harder, that kind of thing. And they believed in me. And I think that's the first time that I started to see what it meant to be believed in and to help. And they're the ones that transformed me, that brought out of me what was in there, but just had been, smashed down.
I think that's a great point. Yeah, I think that's a great point because, we talk about, are we born with our talents? There's a lot of conversation out there of what happens, but it's start with talent and finish with strength. The idea is that really, the talent is sort of the raw still yet to be formed, molded strength out there. But when it becomes a strength is when it's been developed and nurtured. And I think that's a really great example, because my personal philosophy through this would be is like, if we have these talents, each talent has a need, right? And so it's really likely that you've had developer all along, but it wasn't being fed, right? Mm-hmm. And then once it got fed, you saw the power of it, and that's when it started developing, and that's when you started refining it, and when you saw it. And so that recognition of how powerful it was, and it being woken up in you, wasn't creating a strength or creating a talent, was merely feeding and nurturing one that hadn't been receiving what it needed for so long.
Yeah, it wasn't being watered. It was like buried in the dirt. And it's true. They started to show me the mentoring part of things. And then I started believing in myself, and then I could believe in other people. And then my first recollection of mentoring anyone was, we were in ministry for years after I got out of college. And then I started mentoring younger people. And that's when I really remember developer coming out. I totally believed in them, and I got close to them, and they came to me, and I just kind of walked them through things. And so it was really where I truly remember that particular talent starting to be used.
Right. Oh, I love that. And, and that's still fairly early on, right? Even if we're not seeing it in our early childhood, it's still a fairly early stage in your life that you were able to
my 20s
really tap into that and use it. So I love that.
Yep.
Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to invite anybody, if you have questions for Jana, feel free to throw them in the chat or pull yourself up and ask some questions. We do have quite a few minutes left, and I've only got about 3 questions left. We're halfway through. So at the moment, so while we're waiting to see if anyone else has any questions for you, Jana, what would you want other people to know about developer? And when I ask this question, I mean, are there things where you feel like your developer is misunderstood, or that you think would make it easier for people to understand developer if they just knew what?
Well, the thing that you and I were talking about earlier, it's really coming to an aha moment for me. It clarified it, that my strong belief in people sometimes is perceived by them as this high expectation that they aren't able to reach. And so I think from here forward, I'm going to clarify that on the front end. If I see that they're getting a little shaky or whatever, like I can't measure up, because that's how I felt all of my life, is I can't measure up to what my mom expected, and I was always compared. She did that to all of us as siblings, my brother and sister too, but it was her way of encouraging, which wasn't at all encouraging.
Right.
And I don't want anybody to feel that about me. I don't want to crush people. I don't want to make them feel like my expectations here, and if they can't meet them, too bad. I'll from here forward, I'm not going to allow that to be something that's perceived. I'm going to make sure I clarify that. So thank you for that little explanation. Because it really ding, the light bulb went off, and I thought, oh, wow, that's true,
And and that's what I love about talents, is because we all come from such different perspectives, right? And each talent is a theme, and we use it differently. Now, I don't have developer high, but I have a talent that can relate to a piece of the developer when it comes to seeing that potential. And so I love when you can share those moments, that it's this consistent process of always learning and going, oh, right, I get it now, right? Like you just
I know.
I've seen it that way, but that's what I love about the conversations, because we're consistently learning and able to improve and refine and apply our talents in new ways, right?
It's true, really true.
Okay, so I know I threw you for a loop with the next question. I had to go through a little bit of discussion with it. So if you were to think of a famous person or someone out there in the world that kind of exemplifies developer, that really shows what developer is, who comes to your mind?
Well, no one at first, until I talk to you, and you're so clever. You suggested the movie. Oh gee, now I see to me. What's the name of that movie?
Blindside.
Yeah, Blindside. I knew it. I said everything but the title. Because I truly would think I would be that kind of person. And interestingly enough, so is my daughter, picking people up off the street kind of thing. She's
Right.
worse than me. She literally does pick them up off the street. And I'm a little more concerned about that. But to believe in them, to help them, to open doors for them, to make a way for them. I don't know if she's like that in her real life. I imagine she is. But, she has to
Well, I
be.
mean, it was based on a true story, and I know she's very much like that. I worked at Yum, and they were part of the Long John Silver's franchise family, so we had a connection to them through the company I used to work for. And for those of you who don't know Blindside, we're talking about the movie with Sandra Bullock, where she plays the mom who takes in an African-American teenager who's having a rough time, has a drug-addled household, and takes them into her home and raises him, and he actually becomes a professional football player. And so Sandra Bullock was that character that we sort of started talking about, because I actually was having a little bit of a hard time. So it was in our discussion as we were thinking through, what does it mean to be a developer? What kind of person would you look for? And I started thinking through like all of those stories of teachers who go to the like inner city schools that have that like hard, rough thing, but sees potential in the kids and always brings them up to a new level. Like just as a group, there's kind of that. And then Sandra Bullock kind of stuck out of my head because I'd seen the movie recently, that I thought, if anything embodies developer, it's got to be her, right?
And that just brings up another point. I think about the movies that I like to watch, and they're like that. They're the true stories of people who have brought people from the whatever, and raise them up. And I'm like, not until this very moment did I think, no wonder I like those things.
You watch movies, your entertainment is actually all about feeding your talents. That's awesome.
Relate to that.
And I think people don't think about that often enough. I think sometimes our talents, they don't just influence how we are at work. They influence how we are as parents. And right, developer as a parent is going to be someone who is going to be especially interested in celebrate like every little baby step, literally, right?
Right.
So I'm just kind of curious, did you keep good baby books, or did you keep progressive?
Yeah, my son's little clip of his first haircut and, stuff like that. And I just did that. I mean, and my son was really good at music and piano and all, he performed. So I was like anxious every time he would perform in a contest, and he would usually win, and I'd be so proud, and I mean, it's just kind of like, I celebrated a whole lot of things that my kids did along the way, and then also got dashed with the things that I believed they could do, but then didn't. They sabotaged themselves, and that crushed me. I hated that.
Right.
Because I could see the other potential. So.
Right. Yeah, I think that's something that just naturally comes along with a developer. So I always love that in a parental. I mean, I look up to that. That's one of those talents that I probably envy a little bit, because I see potential with my maximizer. I'm not always great at nurturing it. And I think developer comes with a natural nurturing instinct.
I think it's right. I think you're right on that. I do nurture a lot. And I like that. I'm okay with that. It's not something that I feel bad about. I'm actually really happy I have that.
Right. So do you tend to develop like everyone around you? Do you reserve it for certain people? Like in your relationship with Mark, do you see things where you like want to celebrate his progress or baby steps or anything with him? Or is it something you reserve for like a select group of people?
I don't think I reserve it. I think if I see someone, I can't think of any time I've withheld it. I mean, if I see somebody making progress or wanting to be here, and they make these little steps or they do whatever, I celebrate that. Sometimes I say, it's about time,
Thank you for joining me on this journey. It's so nice of you to be here.
That's right. Yeah, it's like, I saw that a whole long time ago. So that might be the expectation that maybe I push a little further. But no, I don't think I'm selective. Even certain people like I see on the street or that that meet I don't even know. There's this huge pull in me to help them somehow, some way.
Right.
I mean, and I don't feel bad. I mean, it's kind of like if they trick me, you know, as people on the street, we just had that happen the other night. We were out and this gentleman seemed so sincere, and he talked about being on the street with his 4-year-old, and he had a job, but he couldn't get there till, you know, the whole story. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking, if he's lying to me, that's his problem, not mine. You know, I'm just going to give him something to get that little baby something to eat, you know, that kind of thing. And I didn't even see the child, so I don't know if he had one. But point is, I just couldn't walk away from that. It just, I don't know. So maybe that's part of developer. If I'd had the little girl, I probably would have done something else. You know?
I'm sure. And, you know, and I think that's, I love that point too, that is great about developer, but I think just kind of a general human way of being, I guess. I don't even know how to sum up those words, but that idea that, okay, this person might be conning me. This person might be lying to me, but you know what? That's on them. That doesn't change who I am as a person.
No, and
right?
actually, if I didn't help, I'd walk away and I'd feel horrible. I mean, I just feel like it would haunt me. So I'm like, okay, I got a clear conscience. I'm
right.
fine.
And I think with relationship talents in general, that's probably true. Developer, probably even more pronounced to some degree, to just know that like, hey, I did my part. I have a clean conscience. I can walk away knowing like what they do with that information, what they do with that money, what they do with it, if they're lying, if they're not lying, like that doesn't change who you are as a person, right? So I'm curious, I'm going to ask Rhonda and Paige because they both have developer. And so I'm just curious if Paige or Rhonda, if you want to jump on and share anything that has resonated with you, that what Jana has said, or an aha, even if you don't have a question, I'd love to hear just your perspective. Because I know you're commenting in the chat.
Hi there, this is Rhonda.
Hey, Rhonda.
Hi, good morning, everyone. The part that really, everything Jana said resonated with me. The part that I was emphatically shaking my head was the part where we talked about, you know, the hardest part of being a developer is when you see this potential and they don't see it in themselves, or it's not the right time for them to try to develop that. And developer and overuse for me would be like, you know, it just hurt me so bad that I could see it, and yet they weren't picking up on it. And I really had to work on that, you know, the timing wasn't right for them, that it would hopefully eventually come, and I had to take a step back from that. But that, to me, is the hardest part of developer, is seeing that potential and not being able to help them see it for themselves or take the steps forward.
Well, and you come from a background of teaching as well, Rhonda. You have a lot of experience, like recently, right, in developing young minds and doing that. So I can easily see where that was a natural path for you to be as well.
And it was, I had a speaker once that came in, and we were doing a debrief for presentation, and it's like, you know, a couple of students just did not buy into it at all. And her response was, well, you know, well, not a big deal. You know, does that bother you? It's like, yes, it bothers me, because they could go from here and raise the bar even higher if they could just see, you know, what they could do with this. But that was a learning experience for me, watching her reaction, that it was so totally different than mine, and a difference in our talents.
Right. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing, Rhonda. I appreciate it. Paige, were you going to jump in?
Yeah, hi, I was unmuting. Yeah, I think I love this. And Jana, hi, nice to meet you.
Hey, Paige.
Fellow Tennessean, I love it. So the developer in me, it's funny because I feel like it really comes out right now living with my nieces. And I'm just constantly like, how can I mold you into these beautiful little people? And then I have to step back and be like, I'm not your parent, but I really I'm so excited to be involved in that. And then what was really cracking me up is during your talk, I got a message. I'm on a board of directors, and I'm offering some strengths development. with the rest of my board members. And I got a message coming in from one of them right as you were talking, Jana, about feeding the need. And one of the other members was like, I'm really excited. I think that this development is really going to help me. And his excitement just fueled me so much. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. It just it came full circle that I was feeling so satisfied with just his excitement of wanting to develop. And it was so funny how it came at the exact same time that you guys were talking about need.
Yeah, that's great.
So, yeah, it came full circle. Thanks for this awesome discussion, you guys. I appreciate it. Joe, you muted yourself.
Yeah, Joe. She's muted.
Oh, I did, because there was a siren in the background. So Paige, thank you very much for sharing what you had to say. Apologize for muting myself. Really appreciate your input, and certainly love always having more people in the conversation. I think this makes things nice and robust, and especially when you celebrate it together, right? When you just see what you share and those points of view. So we have a couple moments left, Jana, and of course I always end with the same question as well, which is, what do you love about strengths, and what do you wish other people would know if they haven't taken the assessment yet?
I think because of the makeup of my strengths, my top 5, it's really a lot about developing people, a lot about believing in people, a lot, and because of my background, and then watching my daughter grow up with a lot of insecurities. She was adopted, she came from a bad past, that kind of thing. And that belief, I want people to see the good in them, because there's so many people in this world that don't, and they're handicapped. Whether they are physically, they're not, but mentally they are. And if they could just see that they have a top bit of strengths, that they're good at something, and they're specially made, to be 1 in 278,000 or 1 in 33.5 million, to me is like unreal. And it means you're here for some reason, and you're built a certain way for a reason. You have a purpose, but a lot of people never, ever live their life knowing that. And I just want to be able to share that with them and go, you really are whatever it is. Look at what you are, and give them a hope that, hey, I can be something, So that's what I love most, I think, and what I'm most excited about using it for.
Yeah. No, so for those of you who are joining us in this community or listening to this later, I do know Jana outside of this, for Strong Communities facilitators together and everything. But honestly, when it came up with developer, I could not have thought, I really don't know that I could have thought of a better person to talk about developer than Jana, because for me, she just absolutely embodies the talent, and there's so much authenticity that comes from her desire to just truly see the best in people and help them be the best that they can possibly be. And I just absolutely adore that about you, Jana. I think you are
thank you, Joe.
So wonderful, and have your own gifts to offer, to everyone that you're out there, and being a champion of strengths. And I think that's just wonderful. So I'm so glad to belong to this community with you. Thank you so much for your time today.
And I'm so glad I've known you, because you're so brilliant and the things that I have a whole big lack of. So we can share, yay.
Yeah, but that's the great thing about talents, right? We just find those compliments, and we continue to feed each other and help each other and balance each other. And I just love, as these communities grow larger and larger, that we expand that potential, within our inner circle, and then as our closer circles that are near us as well. It certainly feeds my, deep belief in strengths that comes from, years of working in this area. And I can't imagine doing anything else. So thank you very much for being a part of the show today. Thank you to everyone else who is a part of the show today. I would like to remind you, we have our wonderful Alexa flash briefing on Alexa, on the Echo for Amazon. All you have to say is, Alexa, play the Strong Communities flash briefing, and it will play for you. We are currently doing our series on communication styles for each talent, and each talent, the kinds of questions a talent can be asked, so that it'll get them thinking and trigger that particular talent, but also the kinds of questions they might be asking you, and what they're doing to filter that information with their talent as well. And of course, we also have our Facebook page, Strengths-Based Strong Communities. We're going to start asking for a little bit more interaction on there as we grow with questions and wanting to hear your feedback and what we're doing. And of course, we'll see you here next week at the same time, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Eastern and 11:30 a.m. Central, right here on the Zoom link. Be sure to register so you get your reminders, and we will be talking context next week. Looking forward to it, and thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful week.
Thanks, Joe. Bye.